I'm delighted to be continuing this conversation with one of our partners, Food for the Hungry, who I always enjoy speaking with. And I'd love to welcome to the stage Mark Viso, who is the CEO of Food for the Hungry. Hey, Mark. Great. And we also have joining us online the Vice President and Acting President, Karin Herrera Aguilar of Guatemala. We're really honored to have her presence here in this conversation, where we're going to be looking at how communities can navigate overlapping risks, whether it's conflict, climate, economic shocks, beyond a siloed approach to really truly build resilience, and putting a spotlight on a partnership that Food for the Hungry is doing with the country of Guatemala to show how this can really be done in practice. And Your Excellency, we're so honored to have you joining us virtually. And just so you know, we will have an interpreter that will be able to translate between us from Guatemala and here in New York. But Guatemala, I think, is an example of a country that is facing many of these overlapping challenges, from climate vulnerability to migration, malnutrition, just a lot of general inequality. And so how is your government moving away from a siloed approach to a more integrated, resilient strategy? And maybe you can talk a little bit about your partnership with Food for the Hungry and how it's helping you realize this vision.
Bien, muy buenas tardes.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I appreciate so much to be invited to share this high-level dialogue with Mark Viso, who is the CEO of Food for the Hungry. And as a government, we are giving great steps, wonderful things, in order to focus our public efforts jointly with international cooperation in order to achieve good results in the projects to reduce poverty, reduce malnutrition, and improve the attention to first childhood. We are convinced with serving childhood, we can give meaningful steps in order to reduce malnutrition in the country, to focus in the first 1,000 days of life of a child. The resilience roadmap that we started to build from the Vice Presidency Office in alliance with Food for the Hungry represents an agreement that we have subscribed in a paper. But in addition to that, is a compromise, is a commitment of the national narration to assume the problems we have in malnutrition, and it is essential to give the priority to those 1,000 years of life, and it is a shared responsibility of all the sectors in Guatemala. We all have to undertake these challenges through our technical capacities in order to move forward in that working model with an integral and comprehensive approach, articulating efforts with other entities as the one partnership we are doing with Food for the Hungry, but also with other people who is cooperating, like private sector, like NGOs, that want to work all together in this effort. We acknowledge that we have a lot of climate challenges, financial challenges. We have a problem of irregular migration, and through the different situations of poverty, lack of employment, and other social challenges we face as a country, we also try to work on behalf of them with different proposals, like going back home and other proposals. We are working specifically on social development, financial development, and the Food Security and Nutrition Council we work with. All of these, together with the public policies that we are promoting, we try to keep a good coordination to serve the food security and nutrition within the framework of a policy of the first childhood that we want to strengthen. And the thing is that during the first 6 years of life, we have to keep all those priorities in order to move forward. And at the end, we could say, this is the proposal. And we are moving forward in reducing malnutrition. We have big challenges, but we also keep the commitment to keep those sustainable roadmaps in order to reduce vulnerability of Guatemalan families and also to reduce the risks that will create bigger crises. And we know that Food for the Hungry is an important partner. And all this articulation we as a country we have to strengthen all together. And is this effort, I cannot also avoid mentioning the private sector, civil society are so important with it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd love to hear how you're thinking about including marginalized groups, rural and indigenous communities. Those are often hardest hit by crises. And what you're doing to kind of include them in the decision making to really address some of the historic inequalities that exist.
Bien, a nivel de gobierno hay varios
at the level of the
proyectos
we have different initiatives, projects, public policies that we are promoting. And from the President's office, we have convened a dialogue with indigenous populations. But I want to focus on the Vice President's efforts, specifically the office, what we have done. Well, we have 15 municipalities in the Mayan-Chortí region. We are working specifically with them within this plan, and we are promoting sustainable development with them. And what we're working with this is a project called Figinio, and we are working with the agrarian, ecological sector. We are creating projects in order to have research centers within this region because we want to verify water quality. We also are working with other projects that are included within this strategy, that is the strategy called hand-to-hand given by the President. And this is a comprehensive approach in 4 municipalities of this region. And the Mayan-Chortí region I mentioned, and this is soil, water filters, also availability of drainage pipes, and food for those children who are in acute malnutrition, primary care to all these children through the modules of nutrition that is part of this first and early childhood. And then we also want to work in different bonus related to health, education, and social aspects. And we also want to have another bonus like the handcraft bonus. Currently, the Ministry of Agriculture also has fostered the Tobanic credits. And those credits are specifically for those peasants who do not have resources and who are facing climate challenges. They do not have money to invest in their crops. So the Ministry of Agriculture is trying to provide these unique credits. And at the same time, they are creating a platform that provides the basic information and about how the climatic sequences are changing, like droughts, rain, and what is the best time to crop, especially because of the climate change. And in this region, we are also creating a bank of seeds. And we are verifying which are the most resistant ones, especially in these adverse conditions, because this region is located in the dry corridor, that it is a region in Guatemala that is facing biggest challenges, especially biggest crisis during the dry season. They do not have water, and it is useful to reduce the problems with food security and nutrition, and we are giving more access to the peasants on these seats. We are still working on this, but to achieve our goals, we need to create more partnerships with NGOs, with other offices on the state, and also the Trifinio project within the state that is also coordinated with other countries, Honduras and Salvador. And these also allow us to have seeds that are adjusted to the climate change and increase resilience. We have several projects about resilience that has been funded by the cooperation, especially on this dry corridor. And there is a territorial division that is called Chiquimula, and well, it is part of that project. We also have another program that is called Growing Up Healthy, and this is including the coverage of healthcare and different hospitals and small houses, medical houses, in order to provide the first level of healthcare, especially for pregnant women and childhood. And this is what we have promoted, to keep the basic services, to measure height and weight in kids, the vaccine scheme, especially to include pneumococcal, rotavirus, who are viruses that are causing a lot of difficulties in childhood. And since their bodies can tend to be affected, so we are trying to provide all these health services. We are also respecting the cultural relevance of each individual in region. We are respecting that relevance, especially within the services. We also have the participation of midwives, who are also members of the community, to provide these primary healthcare services to the population, to these populations. There are other initiatives. I already mentioned the hand-to-hand strategy promoted by the President of the Republic. Within the Food Security and Nutrition Council, we are also boosting and developing two different protocols. The first protocol is the attention of the acute malnutrition, and here we are giving the priority to 5 municipalities, and the protocol of famine that we have in different seasons. And to work on this, we use all the climate roadmaps that we have and the different projections on climate in order to draft a report in order to give priority to the different regions. And within that framework, we have requested to the Food Security Nutrition Council and the Ministries of Development, Agriculture, to have a special food that will give us the opportunity to be prepared, to serve the different numbers of people that will be affected in better scenarios, in intermediate scenarios, and the poor scenarios. This is something we keep requesting to the different sessions in order to work, and the strategy hand-to-hand that is given by the President with the different ministries is focusing on 114 municipalities. When we see these different strategies and the protocols, we see that we have 20 municipalities out of 340 that have the 3 interventions working in this. That is what I can share.
Thank you, Your Excellency. And so, Mark, I'd love to bring you in. And Food for the Hungry has long operated in fragile and crisis-prone places. And your name might make people think you focus on food, but you all have really been taking a multifaceted approach to resilience, not just looking at food systems. And could you talk about this approach to resilience and how this partnership really exemplifies that shift?
Yeah, let me try as brief as I can. First, let me say thank you for having Food for the Hungry up here and for me. And we're very excited and honored to be here with Madam Vice President, Acting President Herrera. She's truly a visionary leader who is promoting in practical and meaningful ways resilience so that families and communities in Guatemala can be stronger. Just briefly for us at Food for the Hungry, we, like a lot of other peers in the sector, have realized what we've been doing for decades is necessary, important, meaningful, but ultimately fundamentally insufficient. We all know that the SDGs, we all signed up for them, has an annual $3 trillion gap to hit them by 2030. So we got to do something different. So for us, we embarked on an exploratory journey of transformation, what we call reimagination, to try to discover what we think would make meaningful, lasting, exponential impact. And like you said, just not in food, right? And how do we make people's lives holistically better? So for us, we've landed on systems, taking a systems practice approach, understanding the systemic issues that cause and can mitigate challenges of poverty, injustice, and marginalization, and resilience. The reason why this partnership is so seminal and we're so honored to be partnering with Guatemala is for three reasons. One, it's embraced at the national level. That makes a difference, right? This is owned by Guatemala. We're just there to catalyze and support and facilitate anything that Guatemala might need in really a give and take partnership. So that's important, that's seminal. Second, it is proactive. It doesn't just focus on an immediate problem or a project or an intervention or transactional activities, but it helps give people, communities, institutions what they need to adapt, adjust, transform, having resilience capabilities so they're prepared and know how to adjust when unexpected crises or events happen, right? That's important. And thirdly, as a roadmap, though it's not going to be able to identify everything, it serves as a focal point for everybody, as Madam Vice President said, collaborate together and knowing if they put their efforts here, it's in concert with where Guatemala thinks is important to make and protect their communities and families in the future. So that's why we think it's important. That's why we're excited, because it's a practical application of what our more aspirational concept of reimagination means at a very important level that hopefully we can pilot with Guatemala and scale at other places.
Yeah, what I love is that, there's a lot of conversation around country ownership and the role of international NGOs in that. I think this is a really good example of that in practice that maybe others can learn from. So thank you, Madam Vice President, Acting President. Thank you, Mark, and Food for the Hungry. And we'll continue the conversation with I'll introduce my colleague, Jesse Chase Lubitz, who's going to lead our next conversation. But thank you.